Now we need to proceed with if statement, what we did last time, or just doing if and else. In this one, there is going to be what if you have more conditions to worry about before doing the else, right? For example, to illustrate that we are going to do a grading system, a mini grading system to see based on the various scores, right? A student will have a particular grade for that. So let me leave let me make it bigger. Let me make the screen bigger and then save, close this side so that we can have a better look at what we are doing here. Okay, so we have it. So I'll click here to make sure that I close this side for us to have more space. We know we are in the main dot that, so I'll click here to close it so that we can have more space to see what we are doing. So currently we are going to do this system, right? Let me describe it using as we said, multi-line comment, right? So let's go. I'm going to write a comment here. My comment is not yeah, okay, so let's leave a comment. We want to build a grading system that that will follow the yeah, that will give grades as follows, right? So if the person gets between 90 to 100, we are going to give the person a plus. If the person gets between that will be 80 to 79.99, we are going to give that person A. If the person gets 75 to 79.99, I think this should be 89.99, the person will get a B plus. If the person gets between 70 and 74.99, that's just before the person will get a B. If the person gets something around 65 to 69.99, we are going to give them a C plus. And if the person has 60 to 64.99, we will give the person that's what, let's give the person a C, right? Then anything lower, we are going to stop here, but we can continue. Anything lower, we give the person like fail, F. Yes, this is our grading system. This is our grading system. From if the person's score is 90 to 95, then this is what is going to happen accordingly, right? So now let's build it, right? It's a grading system. Here we have to take decisions. So the person will give it a score. Based on the score, we take a decision on which grade the person will receive. So to do that, now let's start the actual code. So let's take the score first. The score can be having decimal number, right? 60 to 69, 4.99, right? So it is not right to use an int, right? Someone would have done like said int score equals to something like 40. And as we learned, if it is the score is 40.5, for example, this is a double value, and then it cannot be stored in an int. So the for that matter, we'll be keeping double. And so double, you keep the score because our score can be decimal numbers. That's why we are using the double. So yeah, we understand that. Now let's start with the condition. The first condition. The first condition is this one. So I'm going to copy this one, right? Remember, this is a comment. The one I'm leaving here is a comment, right? I'm printing it here. First condition, 90 to 100, you need to get A plus. So we say if the score is so basically greater than 90, right? Greater than 90, right? Where it is greater or equal to 90, greater or equal to 90, right? We need to print. So we are going to enter the value so that we don't go beyond 100, right? So yes, that's what is going to happen. So we are going to say print you have scored. So we can say your grade is A plus. That's what's going to happen here, right? So this is what we get. Your grade is going to be A plus if your score is 90 to greater than 90, basically 90 to 100. We are assuming that the maximum value is 90, so anything beyond 90 will be a high score. So the maximum value is 100, right? Yes. Now the second condition, so we are entering another condition. Which condition is that? It is this one. We'll do the same thing. So I'll basically copy this and paste it here. So we're done for 80 already. So this one should be is greater than 80, and so we learn about the and system. And score is less than 190, is less than 90, right? If the score is greater or equal to 80 and the score is less than 90, so this is a condition. We talk about the and thing. So this one for and, this one should be true and this one should be true before you can run this. So yeah, we are going to give them as an A. The person will get an A for that. So let's talk about the following condition. The next condition, let me copy this thing again. Copy. For now, let me paste condition. Let me paste it before I put the condition there. The next condition after A is this B plus. So I'm going to copy this, paste it here. This is the condition that we are going to follow in this case. So if you have this condition this time, we are going to score a B plus, but then it should be between 75 and it should be less than 80. So yeah, 75, between 75 and, but then it's also less than 80, not less than or equal to 80, right? Because we want to stop at 79.99, that's before 80. So yes, now let's go to the next condition. Let me copy this again, and then I'm going to put it here. Control V. So the next one should be giving me a B. So this B condition, copy. Yeah, this one. So it's giving me B. So I'm supposed to stop at 70 to 75. And here you get a B. Let's go to the next condition. I think the next condition is after B, we are going to copy this. I think C right now, right? C plus. Yeah, we are going to C plus. So for the C plus condition, this is the condition that we have. So we need to print, copy this and paste it. Then this is between 65 to, it should be less than 70 basically, and this one you are going to get a C plus. Let me clean this. Yeah, let's focus on the next condition. After C plus, then we go to C, copy it, and then I'm going to leave it here. That's V. So I'm copying this again, pasting it here. Then I think it should be C this time, but we are moving from 60 to something less than 65. Okay, so this is what we have. And now let me go to the last one, which says anything lower, we give the person F. So meaning that anything lower, right? There's no specific condition. So that one will fall within the else statement. Else, we are going to print that your grade is F, basically. So yeah, we are going to return an F to the person, and then we'll have this. Okay, so currently, yes, this is what we have, right? So we've written the conditions, and then the conditions are showing us that we need to have for the first score. So this is the score that we'll be comparing, right? Then you get A, B according to whatever you have done. So there are if statement helping us to make the condition. Right, so let's run this for the first time. So we go to the this and we write that main dot that, because that's the name of the file. And then they say that your grade is F. How did you get F? The score is what? 40.5. And 40.5 doesn't match this condition, because this one is the grade should be greater, the score should be greater or equal to 90. But the score is even less than, yeah, the score is between score 60 and 65, but then the score is actually less. So anything else that is less, we print this. That's why this guy printed among all of them, right? Now this is what's happening. Let me add, let me give another thing. Let me give 67.5, and let me run this again. Then we run this, you see what happens. You see your grade is C plus, your grade is C plus. Yeah, your grade is C plus, and your grade is C plus, and here is saying your grade is F, right? So now, why is this thing still printing, right? Because I will explain in a bit. Let me elevate the score a bit. So I'm going to 91, for example, and run this. So they say your grade is A plus, your grade is F. So the person got A plus, but then still the person is getting this thing printed, right? Now, because in the previous session we told you that whenever we start a new if statement, it is going to be separate from the previous one, and this else that you have here is only tied to this one, right? So this is one if statement expecting it to run. The code will definitely operate on this one, like it will run this particular thing, right? It will check this one by all means, right? And then either the if or the else, one of them will run. This one will also be checked, right, before it moves on. This one will also be checked before it moves on. This one will also be checked before it moves on. This one will also be checked before it moves on, right? And this one will check before it moves on. So every time all these if are separate, because they are separate, right, they are going to run independently, regardless whether they are going to print or not. The program, right, that you have run, you just want to pick one of them, the appropriate one of them to run. But then because you have done separate if, separate if, separate if, what's going to happen? All of them are going to be tested or run, right? Or tested. Yeah, they are going to run. The system is going to check on them before you move to the down one. Yeah, but then among all these conditions, we just want one of them, the appropriate one to run, and that's all. So what's happening is that we need to include an if condition, modify the if condition such a way that all of these becomes a block, right? So that this one, all of these become a block such that all these if statements become a block. Let me close this. All these if statements become one block so that when you run the program, these calls will be compared, and among all the if, only the appropriate one will run. But if you have a separate if, right, this one, for example, is a block because if and else form a block, right? This one is one block on its own, right? Because it's a separate if. This one also a block on its own, and every block will always be run or yes, will always be run by the system, right? That's why we are having this one run separately and this one will run separately. But what we want is that we want it to all be one block such a way that when we send a score, only the appropriate one will run. No other person should be tested or checked again. So how do we do that? Now, if you have multiple if statements that um you want to test under the same conditions or like in the same block, for example, this score, for example, you want it to be checked on this particular series of if statements so that only one of them will run, not all of them will be run, all of them will be checking. So aside the, for us to connect them to make them as one block again, aside the first if, right? If always starts, if always starts the first, whenever you want to start an if statement, the first one is an if, the rest one will follow, right? This is what we saw last time, that the else will follow. But before the else, if you have intermediate condition that you want to test before going to the else, this one we bring a key before them to call else if. So the next if you have another if you want to test in the same block of code, the first one is always if, but any subsequent if that is connected should always be coming this way, else if. So now in this case, this and this are one block now. So only one of them will run. So we need to connect the other ones already. So become else if. This one too should also be else if. This one will also be else if. This one will also be else if. And all of them will have only one else. The else is just one for all of them. And this whole program is now connected. So when you run this now, only one of them, only one of these particular if conditions will run. Not all of them will run. Yes. So this particular if is separate, like it's not separate from this guy because this is an else if. So this else if is connected to this, to the first one, and this else if are connected to the, all these ifs are connected. So now when we run it now, we will not see the previous error again. Let me clear this, and now let me run this. Now they say your grade is A plus with a score of 90. With a score of 90, 91, your grade is A plus, and that this is the only condition that runs. And then this else doesn't run again because it's now part of a bigger block of if statements, right? And among the bigger block of if statement, only one can run. So if we change the score to another thing like 67.5 that we tested first, we are going to see that we have the same, we don't have the two things printed again. So I'm going to have clear, run this. So your grade is C plus. Your grade is C plus. So among all these things, right, this guy will not run, this one will not run, this guy will not even be like, will not run, will not be checked, this guy will not be checked, then this guy will also not be checked because they are all now part of one block of if statement. And among all of them, only this one was able to run because the condition matches this one. Once it matches this one, it doesn't have to bother about this right again. It needs to, the code needs to continue. Any other code that will follow that is not connected will continue. Yeah, running continues to the rest of code. Yes, so if the things are connected and you have multiple if statements to check, right, you need to remember to connect them when necessary. But if they are separate things, if they are separate things that you run, they are if separate if statement that you want to run, then you need to actually start a new if statement. So in full, to have a full if statement, we have to do it in this way. We have if followed by else if, then let me do it like this, followed by if else, then followed by else, which is the last one. So this is the full thing that we need to use. This is this first if is the beginning. If else if for any intermediate condition you want to tell that is connected, and then this else is for anything aside among all the previous if. Make sure that else comes last. Else should come last. So you don't have to write if else first, right? If comes first, followed by if else. If you have intermediate condition, then you have else for the last part, and then you have a full block of if statement. And then in this block of if statement, only one of them will run, and that's how we can run multiple if statements in one block. If you want to start another one, then you create a new if statement. Whenever we start a new if statement, it is separate from the previous if or if block. Yeah, let's have that in mind. And um try our hands on this particular grading system. You can continue and finish it up to move down to 60s, 55, grade D, D plus, E, E plus, and F, and print the right message yourself.